I am going to put out a warning just in advance because I do actually have Felix is in the room today with me. He is laying right beside me on a big cozy sweater of mine, but today is the final day my contractor is working, and I'm keeping him in the office instead of in his hair. So hopefully we will make it through today's video without any interruptions or bark interruptions from Felix, but okay, let's move right along. If I don't have the same energy, that's probably why I don't want to get him excited. But I am looking forward to sharing this story with you. And I think that this is a really appropriate time for me to share this story because, and the timing is amazing because I was supposed to talk about this last week. I was supposed to create this video last week and I ended up having to cancel. But it actually works better with what's going on in terms of me doing enrollment right now for the journey to worthiness. And I think this really fits in quite nicely with it, this personal story about how I came to be a therapist to begin with. And I know many of you have heard some of the story, maybe bits and pieces, but I want to get into a few more details today. And I want you to understand sort of how I got to this point, because me going through my own journey to worthiness is the exact reason I am even sitting here today, 2 years in my own business anyways. That's the only reason I'm here. Had I not gone through this process, had I not stood right where a lot of you are standing right now, and had I not been a little bit selfish and put myself first, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have supported the women I've supported. I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing. I wouldn't have the community I had. I would still be kind of stuck in this spiral, this grind of the life that supposed to culture laid out for me, had I not done this. So I think it's really, really perfect timing. And it gives you kind of tangible results of what is possible with the journey to worthiness. Now, this is personal to me. Everyone's story is unique. Your story is completely unique to mine, and your discovery about yourself and where you go next is going to unfold just as it's meant to. But this was the result of mine and the work that I've done and what I've gone through and what I've experienced. So, and again, a lot of you requested some more personal stories, so I wanted to go ahead and oblige, and this one is a good one. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to use my intuition to sort of decide where this story starts and where it ends, and we'll go from there. And I think really, like, I had decided previous to making any big decisions or life changes in terms of my career, I was already on the therapeutic journey. I was already walking the therapeutic path. And it was funny, when I found my therapist, and I'm sure I've shared this before, I actually found her when I finally made the decision, when I got to the point where enough was enough, where I decided I was this exhausted empath. I needed to do something about my life. Things couldn't stay the same way anymore, like that they were anymore. And I was ready to do the work and actually learn to be a little bit selfish in my life. And I know that a lot of people think that the word selfish is a really, really negative word. And I've been thinking a lot about this and a lot about how it fits into my work the last little while. But the journey to worthiness requires you to be a little bit selfish. And now, not selfish in an egotistical way, a healthy, compassionate ability to go inwards and be selfish, to make it about you. Because to walk the journey to worthiness means that you need to recognize it's your turn and to start to embrace what it means to be selfish for just maybe even the first time in your life. So, and you're going to hear more about that in the next little while, and my take on what selfishness means and how important it is to your own well-being and to your own journey and all that stuff. But we will leave that on the side. But I wanted to give you that context that that's where I was at. And I had gone to see my therapist after finding her on Psychology Today by only a picture. I was like, that's her, that's the one, not knowing anything about her. I don't even think I read the blurb, her qualifications, nothing. I just saw her picture. I'm like, that's my therapist. And I remember I called her up. I made the appointment. I was terrified. I was scared. I had no clue what I was doing when I was going in there. I had 101 doubts. I considered canceling that appointment 900 times before I got there. But I went in. And the funny thing is, when her and I got to talking, and the most interesting part of it all, ahead of anything, is we're actually not that far apart in age. We're almost the identical age, actually. I think I'm just a little bit older than she is. Born in the same year, both the sun sign of Cancer. So it was really funny. That was a really hilarious coincidence between the two of us. And that immediately set the stage for me to feel safe. There was just something there. I'm like, okay, this woman gets me. She gets me. And she understands where I'm at. And I can feel safe with her. And it's funny, and I joke with her about this now. It's like the first thing she ever said to me when I walked in that office was, why aren't you working as a counselor? Like, why aren't you a therapist? This would be the perfect job for you. I don't get why you're not doing it. And I remember in that moment just having the sheer sense of dread, almost like a carrot was dangling in front of me, but it felt like it was so high up, so far away. that there was no way that I could reach it. And I remember in that moment when she said that to me, there was this, like, I was like, no, there's 100,000 reasons why I can't do it. I'm too old. I can't change my life. I'm too broken. Who am I to think that I can guide people on their journey? Like, what could anyone ever learn from me? And that was all the self-doubt stuff, even on and that was outside of like worrying about finances or education or how that was all going to come together, what I was going to do for a job, how I was going to pay my bills, how I was going to support my family. Like, outside of all of that, like, yes, that a lot of that was happening at the same time in terms of like, how can I make this work, Felix? There's no way that's possible at all whatsoever. But aside from that, on top of that, there was this harrowing self-doubt that said, no way, you're not good enough. You don't have what it takes. There's no way you can support other people. And that recording, that story was on repeat, and not necessarily just as it related to my own career. I mean, yes, in my career that I had at the time, in my corporate career, I had a lot of that. A lot of like, you're not good enough, you can't do this, what are you even doing? People are going to find you out. But as it related to this, the stakes were even higher, because then I felt like, who am I to have people's lives in my hands? Like, there's no way. I am not good enough for that. And that self-doubt story was very, very, very present in that room. And she just said to me, okay, no problem. And we just we left it to the wayside, and we continued the work, because there was a lot of core work that I had to do on my own journey to worthiness. Because at the time, and I mean, on paper, and people from the outside looking in, they would have had no clue that I was feeling some of these things, that it was feeling like I didn't belong, that I was, because I always felt like that. I always for my whole life. And as I reflect on my life story, felt like I didn't belong. I didn't fit in. I was always on the outside looking in. If any of you have seen Dear Evan Hansen, you now have that Ben Platt's on your head. You're welcome. Probably going to listen to that after this. But that feeling like being this outsider and never quite fitting in with any group, even in my own family, I never really felt like I quite fit in amongst my cousins and all that stuff. I always really felt like this very strange outsider. And that had built up for a long period of my life, this feeling, and that I couldn't be myself, and that I wasn't good at anything, that I had to give up on all my hopes and dreams, because what would people think? People are going to judge me. If I do the things I love and I'm not good enough at it, people are going to judge me. And I was also really being driven not only by self-doubt, but by perfectionism, people pleasing. I was an extremely high achiever. It was terribly hard on myself. If I wasn't like top notch, I was beating myself up. And at the same time, I was afraid to show up authentically. I had a lot of body image issues, thinking about the way I talked, my voice, all these things were sort of coming together. And that's why I knew I needed to seek out therapy or support to begin with, because I had this crushing feeling like I wasn't enough, and I needed to be able to get that sorted out. But I don't know that I necessarily had the verbiage for that at the time, which is why I work so hard in this context and within this community, to be able to give you words and to give you verbiage to describe some of the things that you're going through. Because once you have the verbiage, then you can bring things to the from the subconscious into the conscious, and have awareness around them and observation around them. And once you make those observations, then you can start to take steps in the right direction. So laying all of that aside, I was also heavily influenced, obviously, by supposed to culture. And that was something I needed to unlearn and decondition for myself as well, because part of my dissatisfaction was related to my career, because I had spent so much time fighting and wanting to get to this next level in my corporate career, and wanting and following the path and being like, well, I went to school, I got post-secondary education, I got my cubicle, here I am, I'm doing it, I got another cubicle, and no matter how many different corporate jobs or positions I went to, I felt the same way. And I thought that by just changing jobs, changing locations, going from one place to the next, that would solve the problem. But what I learned was, obviously, the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's just more of the same. But I did learn very, very quickly that it didn't matter how many times I actually switched jobs or I went to different places. It was never in alignment with who I was. And I couldn't put those pieces together. I couldn't make that connection, because, again, I didn't have the verbiage. To me, I was like, why do I not feel satisfied? Why do I continue to have the same pattern as it relates to my career? I don't understand. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I followed the life path. I've done everything supposed to. Culture told me I had to. So why is there this sense of dissatisfaction? Why does it still feel like I'm not fitting in? Again, time after time, and even in the corporate world, why don't I fit in? Why don't I fit in? And ultimately, the answer is because I was trying to fit myself into a box that I was never meant to fit in, but I didn't have the tools to understand that. And it was only through that therapeutic journey after years of doing work, after years of, understanding myself on a new level, starting to appreciate my authenticity, building up my self-confidence, my self-esteem, and taking those steps and making those moves, only then was I able to kind of break through into my spiritual awakening, which was like the next piece of the puzzle for me. And I think I've shared some of that here in the community as well, as it went from being, starting off as talk therapy into this like really, really beautiful, it's got a lovely comment. Thank you. Into these, it went from being this beautiful talk therapy into this amazing spiritual awakening where I started to realize that there was potentiality and possibility and in this universe that I could have what I wanted in my life, that I could make shifts in my vibration, in my energetic output. And I started focusing on the energy that I was emitting, because as beings, as human beings, we are like magnets. So we are going to attract that which we put out. So if we're putting out, and that's what I was doing for the longest time, I was putting out this energy of victim mentality. I felt like I was a victim, like I was under attack pretty well, so that I was getting more of that same feedback in return. But the second I had this beautiful spiritual awakening and I recognized that I could work on my energy, on my vibration, on increasing my hope, my optimism, moving from a place of love as opposed to moving from a place of victim mentality and self-doubt and all these sort of low vibrational feelings. Once I started shifting into that realm and like working on meditations, journaling, like you name it, crystals, I did it all, reading. I started consuming everything that I could and discovering how I could improve my own vibration. And the more I did that, the more I understood that anything was possible for me. And I'll never forget sort of that moment for me that I got my big aha moment from the universe. I always say it was like a ping from the universe. The universe literally told me this is what you're supposed to do. And I didn't believe it at first. And the whole day was very, very bizarre how it all played out, because every day I drove to work and every day I listened to different podcasts talking about spirituality or wellness or different topics, whatever I was feeling that day. And I was on my way home listening to another therapist talk on one of these podcasts. And I was like, that's what I'm supposed to do with my life. Why am I not doing this with my life? Now, keep in mind, this is probably a couple of years later from the very first day my own therapist told me that. I'm having just so many interruptions today. Dog, phone, it is what it is. We're just going to roll with it. But I had this feeling like this is what you're meant to do. This is it, Denise. This is it. And I'm driving into work and I'm just like sobbing on the way in. My makeup is running. I'm feeling helpless and hopeless in a lot of ways. I'm like, I don't understand how I'm going to make this work, because I was feeling elated by the possibility of the what, but I was getting bogged down on the how. Like I knew this was what I wanted. This felt so in alignment and I had excitement around that. But at the same time, then all the hows and the whens and the whats and all those questions, those fear-based thoughts and questions started coming in my mind. Like, well, how am I going to make that work? What's going to happen next? What if you fail? And all of the immediate, even though I had done a lot of thought work up until that point, I had done so much thought work in my own life and doing thought hygiene and understanding that sort of I had control over my thoughts and I wasn't my thoughts, that these were protective mechanisms that were coming into play. I had to kind of, even though I had done all that work and I understood that, this was very, very strong, because there's a lot more at risk here. Because now I'm talking about changing my whole career. This is my whole livelihood and changing everything I had ever known, like a complete 180 or 360 rather, right? So I had to address those thoughts right away. And I had so many questions going through my head. I remember being completely distracted at work that day. I remember what I was wearing that day even. This is like how vivid this memory is, that I had this like, it's like forever like emblazoned in my mind. I was wearing like a little pink shirt with like a little ruffle on it. I even remember the shoes. And that's what tends to happen when you have a really emotionally powerful day. That's what tends to happen. Like you always remember it, always, for the rest of your life, because every little detail, because it was so emotional. So I had this day, I have this thought in the drive in, I'm crying, I'm trying to deal with my thoughts. I'm wondering the what, where, why, and how am I going to make this happen? What's going to go on? And I remember when I got to work, I had my review that day with my boss. And I mean, they had some great constructive feedback for me. And to me, it was like I was being told I was the worst employee on the face of the earth. Literally, quite literally. It was in that moment, I felt like I was under attack. Even though they were offering me feedback and constructive criticism, I did not take it that way. I completely went into like defense mode, defense, feeling like I had to defend myself because there I was again, being triggered in that moment, feeling like I was on the outside looking in. And it was devastating to me. And on the same day that this happens, I have an appointment with my therapist. So you can see how the universe is conspiring. I had to feel really, really dissatisfied in my role in my job. I had to feel the discomfort to be able to keep taking the steps forward. So I remember driving to my therapy appointment that night and just walking to the top of her stairs because she was on the second floor of this little building that I went to, and just sobbing. And she's like, "Oh my God, what's going on? What's wrong?" I'm like, "Are you okay?" I'm just sobbing instantaneously. I'm like, "You were right." And she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about, but okay, go on." I'm like, "I'm supposed to be a therapist, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what program I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to make it work financial wise. I don't know what comes next." And she's like, "Okay. There are no such thing as coincidences, only synchronicities, and it's up to us to follow these breadcrumbs and to say, okay, I'm going to follow the breadcrumb, I'm going to follow my intuition, I'm going to follow my instinct, I'm going to walk the journey of worthiness, I'm going to uncover and sort of go through and bring all of these things that are holding me back up to the surface so that I can then tap into what my own needs are. And that's really what the journey to worthiness is all about, to go through and understand what's happened in the past and to be able to understand your own emotional needs in the present moment so that you can then learn your intuitive language, so you can then build on that and really start to live a life that is in alignment with who you are. And that's really what I did. I had to go through all of those different phases to be able to get to that end goal. And from that moment, her and I worked together to get me into school, to make those next steps, to be proactively making steps in the right direction. And that is what needed to happen. And I needed to do those things, and I needed to experience all this. And it's like hindsight 2020, right? Like when I go back in time, now I can see that I needed to experience all that and I needed to go through all of that. And once I got into school, it's like everything started to fall into place. Everything. Like all of the dominoes started to fall. I was worried about money. Bursaries came in spades. Bursary on bursary came in. Anything I applied for, they were basically throwing money at me, essentially, without me even trying. It was just like, okay, I'd like this bursary. They're like, here you go. Things started to fall into place in terms of like when I was actually in school and doing a ton of personal reflection and self-reflection. My own personal journaling had come to an end when I decided I needed to be a therapist, but then I had a new cycle of journaling I had to do in school. And it was just the thoughts that I was having, the ideas that I was having, and how easily everything came to me. It just made sense, right? And now the entrepreneurial journey, that's been a whole other story. That's been a whole other set of challenges, because obviously once I completed school and worked in the industry for a while, I always knew that I was going to be owning my own private practice. So when it came time to do that, when I'm like, yes, I'm ready, it's time to do the private practice thing, that's when COVID was there. So it was a whole new set of challenges. But again, I continued to follow the breadcrumbs, continued to show up. I had no idea I was going to work online. I had no idea this was what I was going to do. I thought I was just going to work with people in my hometown, everybody in my hometown, and because I live in Georgetown, I thought I was going to do this a very conventional way. Even in my own industry, I thought I was just going to do this the way I was supposed to do this in terms of what it looks like to be a conventional therapist. But even that, I've thrown so much of that out the window. I've thrown so much of that out the door, and I'm really making my own rules and blazing my own path. And even now I'm in a second iteration of my business where I'm looking to expand, not just do counseling in Ontario, but offer coaching for people outside of the province in the United States, which is very scary. But again, I'm just going to continue to follow the breadcrumbs and put one foot in front of the other, because so far that has served me and it will continue to serve me. But it's like I have to keep taking those baby steps, and I have to know that every step I take is not only empowering me, it's empowering other people. Because the healing that I am doing is reverberating outwards. The work that I am doing on myself, still even to this day, because the work never stops, it just evolves. As I do that, the stronger I get, the more I can inspire and support other women, the more they then inspire and empower other women. And it just continues to reverberate outwards. So really, it's like through my own healing process, through my own journey to worthiness, I then am now passing that healing along. It's like the sisterhood of the traveling pants, but like the sisterhood of the traveling healing pants. I don't know. I mean, you catch my drift with that, but it's like with every client I serve, they then serve others. So it's just this And the farther I can reach, the more expansive I can be, the more that this can go outwards, the more I can bring to light the impact and the pressure of supposed to culture, the more we can reclaim the word selfish and be okay with being selfish and turning inwards and focusing on us for a while, so that we can all let go of this need to be selfless all the time and just put ourselves on the back burner. It is our turn. It is our turn to put ourselves first. It is our turn to be a little bit selfish. It is our turn to walk the journey to worthiness. It is our right to do it. And whether you and I work together one-on-one, whether or not that is what is in the universe's plan, or you take what I'm saying here today and you turn inward on yourself and you start doing the inner work, the inner healing in your own way, whatever that looks like, we could do this together, because it is your turn to put yourself first, no matter what that looks like, whether it's with me or it's with somebody else. But I am here to tell you today that it is the best decision you will make for you. It is the best decision you will make for you, because enough has to be enough. And you are worthy of living a life that is in alignment with who you are. It might not be the entrepreneurial journey. That might not be your path, but you are worthy of feeling like you can make decisions within your own best interest. You are worthy of reconnecting to your intuition and having it be a part of your life and using it on a day-to-day basis. You are worth exploring what it means to be you in an authentic way. You are worth breaking up with supposed to culture and no longer allowing the pressure to be somebody else stand in the way of who you were meant to be. And that is me standing on an Apple box for 22 minutes. So yes, but thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for dealing with all these distractions, phone ringing, Felix, contracting noises. We were a bit all over the place today, but no matter, we got it done. And if you were curious about if the journey to worthiness is the right fit for you, and you want to know if working together one-on-one is what's in your best interest and is what is in the universe's plan, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, leave a comment, ask me to contact you, or send me a private message. I promise I do not bite. What you see is what you get, and I will see you next time.